Now, I have not started this car in like 3 months, so I'm hoping it starts so I can move it and handle spark plugs real quick. The brakes for the front brakes for the Nova should actually come in today, so I'll get to unbox those. I'm not going to get to working on it because I have to pack um, to head out for work tomorrow. So at least I can do a little bit of maintenance on this, hopefully in the next hour, because I have jujitsu in about an hour. So let's. Oh, that's a good sign. Yes, I'm happy that that started. Okay, I just want to move it back a little bit. It hasn't been driven because it's been. I haven't been able to pick up the registration for it, which I have it now. For one, and for two, I really haven't had a need to drive this car, even though I should drive this car more often. But just get this thing this way. So I can pop the hood. Let's take a quick look here. Okay, this should be pretty easy once I get the prop up. Realistically, this thing should get a new battery soon because this is the original battery and it's almost 10 years old, surprisingly enough. But here we go. On this, it should. I gotta clean out the K&N filter. It's got a K&N filter, but I'm gonna do the coils on this thing, which shouldn't be a big deal. We've got just a little 8mm here. We've got the wires to pop off, pull the coil plugs out, coil packs out, and it should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so one of the first things I'm going to do is check the new plugs to make sure the socket size is going to be correct. Okay, so we've got a 14mm thin wall socket that we're going to be using, and then don't touch the battery with that. We've got an 8mm that sits on top here. Gonna just back that out. If we're lucky, just by doing that, maybe this will have enough length to where. Nope. All right, so I'm gonna have to go get a piece to undo that clip to back that off. No problem. No problem. When it comes to a lot of the connectors, I like to just grab one of these to get underneath and pop them free, because they can be pretty tricky to do so and not damage them. These also have this tape around them holding this, which I assume, I'm not going to even make an assumption as to why they put this tape on here. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to pull that back so I can see what I'm working with, how that connector attaches, and then try to pop this guy. There we go. First one's out, and let's try to get in here. I remember a long time ago, they're like, oh, well, you need a specialty tool to get the spark plugs out, and this, that, and the other. And stuff dealerships try to convince people of when doing service. Like, they just tried to convince my wife, she just went in for like a 75,000 mile checkup, that it would be $800 to change her spark plugs. And I bought the premium spark plugs for 75 bucks or something like that, and then did them myself in all of 45 minutes, and saved, $700 and some dollars. So we've got, it doesn't look bad. They definitely look like they've had their use. Little dark, a little rich, but these engines actually run a little rich. And these come pre-gapped. I don't usually mess with the ones that are pre-gapped. Thread length looks the same. All of that, body length looks the same. So we should be good. The only thing I need is a little bit of anti-seize. All right, so let's get a little bit of anti-seize on this guy. It's kind of a must because of all of the heat that these threads face. So get a good coating. Try not to touch anything with that. And then drop it down nice and straight, and then thread it by hand. Usually, I've never run into issues of this not wanting to thread easily or cross-threading when doing spark plugs. There is a torque recommendation generally from the factory on how tight to do these, but I've done so many of these spark plug changes because I used to work in a shop that you kind of learn where the crush washer and everything fits and that feel for that plug. And then the magnetic tip doesn't want to pop out. One sec. There we go. Cool. First one's done. Now I just gotta, for the most part, rinse and repeat. I'm gonna slide that back in the hole. Get that guy clipped and clicked. Number one is done. And now we can move on. All right, so number two, now we know the plug or the clip orientation. I'm gonna press it down from this side. And I'm gonna start wiggling this guy off. Nice and easy. And so on. Spark plug cover just pops off really easily. So I'm just gonna do that for this cover for right now. Swap this guy. So with the brakes, I am going to do a little unboxing, but I'll give you guys a little bit of information. On conversations with Church Boys Racing, Chuck at Church Boys, we were finally given the information that realistically, Willwood systems for the classic Chevys all work well with their front ends. So, doing some research and also previously dealing with Willwood parts, there's another company, another brake company, that they use all of the basic stuff from Willwood. So their hubs, their brackets, and so on, but they do their own rotor and caliper design that used to be based in Camarillo, California. Well, so they are now owned by Motion Race Works, which is a great company. I really like a lot of what they do. They're really aimed to be innovators and so on. So I reached out to them to see if they had anything specific for the Nova, and they did. They have a kit that is a 12.19 inch diameter kit for the Nova with a 4-piston caliper and really incredible caliper design that will work. So it will fit within a 15-inch wheel and be more than adequate stopping power for a car that we hope to have down to 2,400 pounds by the time we're done, and be able to do something like the Silver State Rally or something like that that's going to be some higher speed stuff. And they said that it'll fit the bill. So we have a set of brakes coming from the Brakeman, or TBM brakes, as most people know them. They started off as a very, very, very specialty brake company, and they were actually known for a particular rotor design that they were mainly associated with drag racing only for a very long time. And the guy that started TBM was actually formerly a Willwood guy, if I remember correctly. I had dealt with him, or not me personally, but some shops and some people that I've worked with have dealt with him. He was a very nice guy, very helpful for a lot of different stuff, for other projects, old GM stuff, when I was doing a lot of restoration work. And they're just super easy to deal with and so on. Well, he sold to some other people and he retired, and they actually kept it going. They expanded, did really good business and marketing, and they got into not just drag racing stuff, but they also got into monster trucks. So a lot of the brake systems you see on monster trucks were TBM systems, and then expanded more and more. Really good innovation on the new team's side and engineers. And then they actually have had Miata systems for a very long time. And so the brake system on this car is actually the very first ND Mazda Miata brake system. Make sure I'm paying attention here while I'm... There we go. Is the very first ND Mazda Miata brakes that they did. And so I'm very familiar with their product. I am familiar with the quality of their product. Their quality is extremely high, and I have a lot of trust in what it is that they have provided me. So I want to say thank you to Levi over at Motion Raceworks or TBM Racing if he's just directly with TBM, in helping me to pick out the right set. We also have a Strange Engineering master cylinder on the way as well. Now, there's other little things I need to get back to work on this car with. And so I plan on doing some of that on the channel over time. Obviously, right now, the priority is the Nova, but I don't even technically own this car. It's a car that I actually have worked on and modified for my mom because she's always wanted a little fun little roadster, great little California car, but she's actually been busy working on her 1968 Plymouth GTX and focused on that over anything else. And so this thing's been kind of ignored. It's been ignored by me. And I always ask her, like, do you want me to bring it back? Like, I can drive it, drop it off, so on. And she's like, that's only if you want to. Like, I'm not going to be doing anything with it for right now, and so on. And I still have extended lug nuts to do on it. I have a camber bushing to do for the front suspension on this thing. There's other stuff I'd love to do with it over time, but it's just time. Like the front splitter on this. So this has a Verus, whatever you want to call it, Verus branded front splitter, and it's marketed as a chassis mount splitter. It's not really a chassis mounted splitter. Everything mounts to the bottom of the front bumper except for one really long bolt that comes from underneath with a bracket that bolts to a little T-bar that goes across for the radiator support. And that's the only thing that's like semi-chassis. It's really not a chassis mount. I was very disappointed in this thing. So I want to reconfigure the mounting for that so it can actually be a legitimate chassis mount front splitter, which will take some work. It'll take some planning, fabrication. It'd be a lot easier to not do it on the ground, but I don't have a shop with a lift. It is what it is. So that's one of the things I want to do. I also would love to redo the carbon fiber front canards or the dive planes, because this car's been driven. Like, I have taken this through Malibu Canyons a bunch of times. Like, it's gone to Willow Springs. It's been enjoyed for sure. And the brakes on this thing are absolutely wicked. And I would love to refinish them because you can actually see the wind shear wear on the dive planes. And it'd be nice to take these off and kind of put another layer of carbon fiber fabric and put some fresh resin on them and clean them up. Maybe learn how to do some other, like, just like carbon fiber, like just like a layering, like to wrap with legitimate carbon fiber. Cool. I can just get that to pop off. Maybe I'm going to use a different extension that isn't so loose. Come on, buddy. There we go. That's a little better. So yeah, so I'd love to maybe redo some carbon fiber stuff on here, which would be fun. Learn some new skills that way, and whatnot. It'd be nice to actually paint's a little beat up on this thing. It'd be nice to actually get some of the paint fixed. Actually, I wouldn't mind replacing the front bumper on it, get a newer bumper. But this is an automatic car, so it's, you know, it's a little sluggish on that side of things. It's not slow, but this is also the first generation of the ND Miata, so it's the ND1. So it actually has the lower horsepower motor as well. These were like 160 horsepower, I believe. Nothing crazy, but they are very light. But the second generation, they actually bumped them up like 25 horsepower, and it would have been cool to have had that motor, but it is what it is. Over time, if we move out of state and this car stays with us, which I believe this car is actually in my mom's will to go to my sister, which I don't believe my sister would move out of state, out of California. So this will go to her. The GTX is actually in the will to go to me, which we'll catch up with that car another time and go take a good look at it. Which is awesome. Like, I love that. I love old Mopars and stuff. That car will go to me. But if this car was going to go out of state, I would full-blown V8 swap this guy. That'd be a lot of fun, because this car has a lot of grip. It's just lacking in power, but it's a lot of fun to drive. I need to figure out a good setup camera-wise to be able to take drives and get good video of this, because I don't really like GoPros. They're not my favorite. They're not horrible, but I just don't mess with them enough. I have one, an older one. I think it's a 7, and it's not my favorite. I don't hate it, but it's just not my favorite. And I don't like how they separate their files like every some odd minutes and so on. So I actually prefer just my good old Sony. The thing's awesome, but I need a really good mount to be able to record some canyon drives in, because the Sony is heavy. Unless I invested in getting like a ZV model or whatnot. So, you know, little things. But we're almost done with the last plug. I'm going to need to check what time it is, because I have jiu-jitsu this morning, but I need to clean out this air filter and let it dry so I can recharge it. I wouldn't say this is the most exciting video, but, you know, this is just what working on cars is. It's not all glitz and glamour and like, oh, we got the coolest wheels, like that kind of stuff. It's actually the boring work that makes the difference. Okay, and good. And hey, cool. Plug this guy in. Put the retainer bolt back in. And then we'll start it up. Make sure it starts. That's always a good way to finish a service. Well, I should put the spark plug wire cover back on first. Get everything off of the front. No. So this thing's been sitting so long that we actually have a wasp nest. But here's the same brake company as what's coming for the Nova, TBMs. This is the first brake set they did for the ND Miata. 2-piece rotor, all that good stuff. This is a 4-piston caliper, free float design, and zero drag when brakes are not applied. Okay, so battery was dead. Go figure. Put this guy back in. Luckily, it's a common battery. And went to jiu-jitsu, came back while I was trying to charge it, and no bueno. So I went and got a decent battery, one that's higher rated than factory, and now we're just going to toss that in so I can finally start this thing up. I'll be honest with you guys, I actually really like the way this car sounds. It's still got, catalytic converters and all that stuff on it, but it has a Roadster Sport muffler on it, which is actually pretty much straight pipe, and it sounds so good. But at least this is done, and now I can go take a shower.